Welcome to the table. If you're joining us today, it's probably because you, like us, have at some point bumped up against a feeling that is, well, it's almost impossible to put into words.
Yeah, it really is.
We get a lot of requests from you guys to explore, everything from macroeconomic theory to space exploration. But the materials you brought us for this custom-tailored deep dive, they're in a category all their own.
They definitely are. They feel intensely personal.
Intensely personal, yeah, yet massively universal at the same time. Our mission today is to explore a short but remarkably profound excerpt from a document.
Right. It's simply titled Loneliness, Longing, and the Search for Connection.
Yes, and I'll be completely upfront with you right now. Spending time with these pages just completely stopped me in my tracks.
I had the exact same reaction.
It's one of those rare frameworks that puts vocabulary to a ghost you felt in the room your entire life. Okay, let's unpack this, because the core theme we are looking at here is really the ultimate human paradox. Loneliness is an experience that touches every single person on this planet, without exception. It doesn't care about your background, your identity, or how perfectly curated your life looks from the outside.
Oh, especially from the outside.
Exactly. And yet we treat it like this shameful dark secret that must be kept hidden at all costs.
It is the ultimate paradox. And to really grasp the gravity of what we're looking at, we have to recognize the emotional stakes involved in that secrecy.
Because it fundamentally changes how we view isolation.
Yes, absolutely. For our entire lives, we are conditioned to think of loneliness as a deficit. We view it as a state of absence.
Like an empty space.
Exactly, an empty space where something or someone should be. But the paradigm we are exploring today completely flips that narrative.
It turns it on its head.
It shifts the definition of loneliness away from being a passive absence and redefines it as a profound state of longing.
A profound state of longing. Wow.
And that single shift in vocabulary changes absolutely everything about how we experience the pain of being alone.
It takes something passive and makes it active. And speaking of that pain, there is a quote right at the beginning of the text from Ronald Rolheiser that pulls absolutely no punches.
Oh, I know the one you mean.
Yeah, he says, every person who has ever walked our earth has known the pain of loneliness.
Every single person.
Every single person. That means the most successful CEOs, the most beloved cultural icons,
Parents completely surrounded by their family.
right, and the most isolated individuals. Every one of them shares this exact same emotional baseline. It's woven into the very fabric of the human story. No one gets a free pass.
No one.
But that brings up a massive contradiction. If every person who has ever walked the earth experiences this pain, why the intense PR campaign to hide it? Like, why do we work so hard to pretend we are the one exception to the rule?
What's fascinating here is the psychological disconnect between the universality of the experience and the intense shame we attach to it.
The shame factor is huge.
It's massive. According to the source, loneliness is falsely but powerfully associated with weakness.
We carry around this internal narrative that if we feel lonely, it means we are fundamentally flawed.
Right. We think it implies we aren't lovable enough, or successful enough, or socially adept enough to maintain a quote-unquote perfect life.
And because of that false association with weakness, we struggle to admit it to others. I mean, nobody wants to be perceived as a burden or as someone who is lacking.
But the more dangerous dynamic is that we struggle to admit it even to ourselves. We bury it under layers of denial because acknowledging the feeling feels like admitting defeat.
Yeah, and that denial seems so deeply tied to modern life, too. Think about the cultural water we swim in every day. Society constantly demands outward strength and total self-sufficiency.
Oh, relentless independence.
Yes, you are praised for hustling, for not needing anyone to get by. The overarching message on every social media feed in every corporate environment is that you should be a completely self-contained unit of productivity and happiness.
A self-contained unit, that's a great way to put it.
So when society applies that kind of immense pressure, acknowledging your own inner loneliness feels countercultural. It feels like you are losing the modern game of life. So, we put on the armor of self-sufficiency and pretend we don't need anyone.
The problem is that the armor doesn't address the underlying reality. Denying loneliness doesn't make it vanish. You can't just wish it away or outperform it.
As much as we try.
As much as we try. Unacknowledged loneliness simply goes underground. The text warns that it quietly disturbs our emotional well-being and diminishes our overall sense of wholeness.
It's just sitting there in the background.
Right. When we refuse to name it, we end up fighting a ghost. We feel this vague, persistent sense of unease or a lack of fulfillment, but because we won't look at the actual source, we can never truly address what's draining our energy.
It's like having a slow, hidden water leak behind the drywall of your house.
Oh, that's a perfect analogy.
Because you can't see the water, and because the wall looks perfectly fine from the outside, just like that outward strength we try to project, you convince yourself everything is structurally sound.
Everything looks fine.
Right, but ignoring the leak doesn't stop the water. It just festers. It quietly rots the wood, it weakens the foundation, and eventually the structural integrity of your house just crumbles.
It collapses.
Yeah. And ignoring a fundamental human feeling operates the exact same way. You aren't fixing the isolation. You're just guaranteeing that the eventual damage to your emotional well-being will be significantly worse.
The drywall analogy hits the nail on the head. The damage happens precisely because we refuse to tear down the wall and look at the pipes.
Yeah.
But the framework doesn't just leave us with the impending damage. It presents a crucial, incredibly empowering choice. Loneliness, rather than just being a source of pain, actually carries immense possibility.
A fork in the road.
Exactly. It is a true crossroads in our emotional lives, and the outcome depends entirely on how we choose to receive it.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because I always thought of loneliness as a one-way street leading straight to sadness. The idea that it has a duality, that it's a crossroads with two distinct paths, is a complete game changer.
It really is.
There is the path of struggle,
Yeah.
and there is the path of possibility. Let's look at dark path first, since that's the one most of us accidentally stumble down.
On the path of struggle, we see the negative outcomes that predictably follow when loneliness is received poorly or denied.
When we just push it away.
Right. When we don't handle that vulnerability with care, the immediate reaction is emotional numbing.
We shut down.
We shut down our capacity to feel anything at all just to avoid feeling the sting of the isolation. And that numbing naturally spirals into unhealthy coping behaviors and relational pain.
Like lashing out at people.
Exactly. We might lash out at the people closest to us because we are secretly hurting, or we might isolate ourselves even further, creating this tragic, self-fulfilling prophecy.
Which just makes you more lonely.
Exactly. It becomes a profound spiritual and emotional struggle that ultimately leads to despair.
And the specific ways we accelerate down that path to despair usually involve some form of escapism. We try to outrun the pain through distraction, overwork, and emotional withdrawal.
All the classic modern tools.
Yeah, and let's be honest, distraction today is easier than ever. It's doom scrolling on your phone until 2 a.m. so you don't have to be alone with your thoughts.
Or the overwork.
Right? Overwork is staying at the office until 9 p.m., telling yourself you are just deeply dedicated to the company, when in reality, you just don't want to go home to an empty apartment or a quiet house.
Emotional withdrawal is the other big one. Putting up such high, sophisticated walls that even your spouse or your closest friends can't actually reach you.
We use these incredibly common tools to escape, but we are really just locking ourselves in that room with a leaking pipe.
Escapism is just denial with a better marketing team.
Oh, that's good. Escapism is denial with a better marketing team.
But this brings us to the other path at the crossroads, the path of possibility. This is where the narrative shifts from tragedy to hope.
The lighter path.
Yes. Loneliness, when received well, can actually awaken creativity. It can spark a desperate, beautiful search for deeper meaning and prompt profound self-reflection.
Instead of numbing us.
Right. Instead of numbing us, it can offer glimpses of true inner freedom. Perhaps the most striking concept here is that loneliness can actually open a path to authentic love.
Wait, how does feeling completely isolated lead to authentic love? Those feel like opposite ends of the spectrum to me.
It seems counterintuitive, I know, but think about the mechanics of it. By deeply understanding our own profound need for connection, by feeling the full weight of our own isolation, we cultivate deep empathy.
Because we realize everyone else is going through it too.
Exactly. We realize that everyone else is carrying that same weight. That shared vulnerability makes us capable of loving others more authentically.
So we aren't just using them.
Right. We start engaging with people to truly know them, rather than just using them as human band-aids to plug the hole of our own isolation. We love them for who they are, not just for what they temporarily fix in us.
That makes total sense. It's a difference between loving someone and just using them as a distraction from your own pain.
Exactly.
And it all hinges on a choice. There's another quote from Rollheiser that captures this duality perfectly. He says, "To be human is to be lonely. To be human, however, is also to respond."
That single word respond is the hinge of this entire philosophy.
Right. Whether we end up in despair or whether we discover authentic love and creativity depends entirely on our response. We can't control the fact that loneliness will knock on the door, but we have total agency over how we answer it.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the way we choose to respond requires a massive paradigm shift in how we understand our own emotional anatomy. And this is the most profound revelation we can take away today.
The big shift.
Beneath loneliness lies longing. Think about the psychological weight of that. Loneliness is not just a static, dull ache. It is an active, dynamic force.
It's doing something.
Yes, it is the heart's search for connection, love, and belonging.
I have to push back on that a little bit, though. When I feel lonely, it doesn't feel like an active search. It feels like a giant gaping void. It feels like nothingness. How do we reconcile the feeling of total emptiness with the idea that it's actually an act of longing?
That is the illusion of the pain. It feels like a void because society has told you that you are missing something. But a void is passive. A void doesn't hurt. It's just empty.
That's a really good point.
The reason loneliness hurts, the reason it keeps you up at night, is precisely because it is an engine running. It's your internal compass aggressively trying to point you toward connection.
So it's not a malfunction.
Not at all. It is a biological and spiritual drive, seeking the bonds it was fundamentally designed to need. It's not a sign that you are broken. It's a sign that your heart is working exactly as it should.
So the pain is actually proof of life. It's the alarm system working.
Exactly. And because it is an active search, facing it honestly transforms loneliness from a brick wall into a doorway.
A doorway to what?
If we stop trying to numb it and instead step through that doorway, it leads to 3 distinct, deeply positive outcomes mentioned in the text. First, it leads to deeper self-awareness.
By listening to it.
Yes. By actually listening to the longing instead of drowning it out with a podcast or an extra shift at work, we learn what we truly value. We figure out what kind of connection we are actually starving for.
Which leads right into the second outcome. Healthier relationships. If you have that self-awareness, you aren't flying blind anymore.
We're not just guessing.
Right. You can engage with your friends or your partner from a place of honesty. You can say, this is what I need, rather than acting out from a place of desperate, unspoken neediness that the other person can't possibly understand.
And that honesty paves the way for the third outcome, which is spiritual openness. The raw vulnerability of longing is incredibly powerful because it strips away our ego. When you admit how deeply you need connection, you can no longer pretend to be that self-contained unit of productivity we talked about earlier.
The armor comes off.
The armor comes off, and you realize you are part of a much larger fabric. That realization opens you up to a broader sense of connection with the world, with humanity, and with the universe itself.
It all comes back to one defining sentence from the text. This is the core thesis, and I really want this to stick in your memory. Loneliness is not absence. It is the presence of unspoken longing.
It's the presence of something real.
Exactly. It's a tangible, vibrating desire within you that just hasn't been given a voice yet.
The word presence is doing so much heavy lifting in that sentence. It obliterates the idea of the void. You can't interact with a void.
No, you can't.
But the presence of longing is something you can sit with. You can listen to it. It becomes a teacher rather than a tormentor.
So what does this all mean? We've covered these beautiful, high-level theoretical concepts about paradoxes, doorways, and the active presence of longing. But how do you actually apply this on a random Tuesday afternoon when that familiar heavy ache creeps in? How do we transition from theory to practice?
The path forward, the actual process of healing, begins with a surprisingly simple yet incredibly brave act.
Which is?
Naming our loneliness without shame. That is step 1, according to the source. You have to look at the feeling, actively reject the societal stigma that tells you it equals weakness, and just name it.
Just say it.
Just say it. You have to be able to say either to yourself in a quiet room or to someone you deeply trust, I am lonely right now, and that is a perfectly normal human experience.
Just saying the words out loud feels like it would take away half of its secret power. But what comes after we name it? I mean, I can say, I'm lonely out loud, but the feeling is still sitting there on the couch with me.
That's where the real work begins. Once we name it, we are challenged to practice compassionate acceptance.
Compassionate acceptance.
Right. Instead of relying on the escapist tactics we mentioned earlier, instead of immediately reaching for the phone to doom scroll, or pouring a drink, or building emotional walls, we have to learn to sit with it compassionately.
I'll be completely honest, sitting compassionately with emotional pain sounds awful. I would honestly rather reorganize my spice rack alphabetically than just sit there and feel lonely.
Yeah.
It goes against every modern instinct we have.
It does go against our instincts, but think about how you treat a good friend who is hurting.
Yeah.
You don't tell your grieving friend to just get over it, and you don't hand them a spreadsheet to distract them. You sit with them. You hold space for their feelings without trying to aggressively fix them in that exact moment.
You just be there.
Exactly. And the text is asking us to hold that exact same space for ourselves. Treat yourself with the same grace you would offer a friend.
That reframing helps a lot. It's not about wallowing in it. It's about holding space for it. And I think that leads to what might be the most relieving point we've uncovered today. The true goal of life is not to eliminate loneliness. Society constantly sells us the lie that the ultimate goal is to never feel lonely, to always be surrounded by an entourage, to always be perfectly happy and entirely fulfilled.
It's an impossible standard.
It really is. But this framework provides massive relief by moving the goalposts. We are not meant to eradicate this feeling. The actual goal is to discover life within the loneliness.
It is a massive relief because trying to completely eliminate loneliness is an unwinnable war. It's like trying to eliminate hunger or thirst.
It's biological.
Right. If you hold loneliness with courage and grace, it ceases to be an enemy and becomes a guide. It guides us toward inner healing and toward ultimate, authentic connection. And this connection happens on 3 vital levels.
What are the 3 levels?
Connection with others, connection with ourselves, and connection with the divine.
It creates a complete ecosystem. By facing the loneliness bravely, you connect with yourself, you figure out what's behind the drywall, and then that self-awareness allows you to drop the ego and connect authentically with others. And that shared human vulnerability opens the door to connection with the divine, or however you choose to understand that broader spiritual reality.
The longing does exactly what it was designed to do. It pulls you out of your isolated little island and forces you into relation with the world around you.
It is a profound journey from a shameful secret we try to bury to an active longing that guides us toward the most meaningful connections of our lives.
It truly is.
So to summarize the journey for you, the listener, the next time you feel that sharp, familiar sting of loneliness creeping in, whether you are sitting alone in a quiet room or standing in the middle of a crowded party, don't panic.
Don't run from it.
Right. Don't immediately view it as a fatal flaw or a terrifying absence in your life. Instead, remember the shift in vocabulary. View that feeling as your own heart's unspoken longing.
It is an active, vibrant energy asking to be heard.
It is simply your humanity tapping you on the shoulder, reminding you that you are built for connection.
This raises an important question, though, and it's one I'd love for you to mull over as you navigate your week.
Let's hear it.
If loneliness isn't a passive absence, but rather the active presence of longing, and if it genuinely acts as a spark for creativity, deep reflection, and empathy, then what happens if we scale this up?
Scale it up how?
Think about the modern world we live in, where we constantly hear reports about an epidemic of isolation. What happens if we view moments of profound collective isolation in our society not as a widespread tragic deficit, but rather as a massive untapped reservoir of creative and relational energy?
Oh, wow.
What if millions of people aren't just empty, but are vibrating with this unspoken longing, just waiting for the right catalyst, the right moment of vulnerability to connect us all in ways we haven't even imagined yet?
An untapped reservoir of relational energy that completely changes how you look at the world and how you look at the people passing you on the street. Thank you so much for taking this deep dive with us today. It is always a privilege to sit at the table and explore these profound truths with you. Until next time, be kind to yourselves, hold your longing with courage and grace, and keep seeking those moments of authentic connection.